Welcome to Elevate to Clarity, the podcast where we discuss how to overcome our obstacles and level up in our purpose. And I'm your host, LaTasha Slide. My guest today is an influential, motivational, and transformational speaker who is activating action in the lives of individuals, organizations, sharing the foundational message of purpose, leadership, hope, and mental well-being. Her global platform has reached and served over 35,000 people. She has experienced the messages of leadership, purpose, and hope that were instilled in her by her legendary parents, Doctors Myles and Ruth Munroe. Her extraordinary story, navigating through her own reality of grief and loss and transforming her life from tragedy to triumph, from obstacle to opportunity, is the inspiration behind her bold mission to teach others that they can do the same. Today, she is most known for her strength and her ability to inspire others to take action. She is currently serving as the president of the Myles and Ruth Munroe Foundation, the vice president of Munroe Global Incorporated, both of which propelled her to add fuel to the fire she is sparking in the hearts and souls of many. She is also the president and CEO of Charisa Munroe LLC, a training and development brand that serves, empowers, and transforms the lives of others. Please welcome my guest, Charisa Munroe-Wilburn, to the show. Hey, sis, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm hoping I'm doing you justice because I know there's so much more, a plethora of more to your story and the introduction.
Absolutely. No, that's where it begins. That's where it begins. Well,
Good.
thank
So
you.
thank
It's a pleasure
you.
to be here.
Thank you so much. Let me say this too. I am honored and grateful for this opportunity because I was researching and you have no idea. And even in my morning prayers, and this is actually, it took place long ago, but in my morning prayers, I always ask God to bring me the people He wants in my life or to experience. And I had the opportunity to start, studying and I call him my mentor from afar, right? From your dad. And when the opportunity came about, as far as wanting to take this journey to learn more about purpose and all those great things, your name and your face kept popping up in other rooms that I was in. So the thing that I want this particular session to be about is more so understanding how God has planted good soil. The experience and experiencing you is planting the seed and reaping the harvest for generations to come. You are the example of that. And I want to again say thank you because I'm honored, and I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm like, wait a minute. But I'm very honored to have this opportunity. So get that out of the way. um so tell me your why. I really enjoy your story, and I wanted to start there first. Is actually understanding your why.
Oh man. And I want to start here before I actually give my why. But my why, aka my purpose, has been something that has been a working project, if you will, all my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognize that it's because my why evolves as I grow mature and I'm more ready and prepared. And so, what I thought my why was, let's say when I was younger, went through school, what my why was essentially before my parents passed, and then what it became after, and what it has evolved into now that I'm the person that I am because of all that has happened. Like, I now have a very good, clear understanding of truly what my why is. And in a nutshell, is to empower already powerful people. But really, I get life and I enjoy and become excited helping high capacity men and women live a life that, yes, they are powerful in the boardroom, but they're also aligned with who they are in their soul. And sometimes those two things can be dichotomized to where we feel if we are powerful in the boardroom or we are powerful at work, We can't also enjoy the life that God has for us. We can't enjoy also the freedom and the luxuries, but also just the life that we want outside of the boardroom. And therefore, they say, well, if I'm going to be powerful, I can't be this in my soul, and I'm so they disconnect the two. Or if I'm going to be, all about really and truly doing what my soul wants to do, I can't be powerful. And I'm here to bridge that gap.
I love that. I love that. So I do know that you actually brought it up. So I know that your dad spoke about leadership and purpose a lot. You also just brought up the fact of your purpose. So what is the one lesson about purpose that you feel like people often misunderstand or get wrong most of the time?
I'm going to go back to some of the very basic principles that my dad founded, and they still stand very true to this day. Where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And
Mm,
so that is why people say, oh, I'm so tired of people talking about purpose, or "Oh, she's talking the same message as her dad, a purpose." Yes, I am. And you know why? Because I understand that indeed the grave is rich and the wealthiest place because so many of us die and leave this earth completely unfulfilled
yeah.
with purpose we haven't discovered, we haven't found, we haven't uncovered. And so, therefore, we've been abusing our lives. We've been abusing time, we've been abusing resources, we've been abusing relationships, all because we don't understand our purpose.
Yeah.
And we can't blame it on anybody else, but because it's our responsibility. And so one of the things that I would say to start is where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable.
Yes, I totally agree with that. It's I go back to Jeremiah 1:5 when God says, He knew us before He formed us, right?
Mhm.
And it always brings me to my knees. And I know when I first started, some things you can read when you're younger, but it never actually hits you to your core and your soul until you actually go through some things and realize who God really is. And when I started taking this journey of the purpose and pruning and preparing and positioning, it was understanding how he actually brought two people together, my mom and my dad together to form me and to make sure that
Mhm.
they actually allowed me to breathe. And, he had a purpose. And when you sit down and really think about that, you can't do anything but be grateful and thankful because you have an assignment specifically for you that he planted specifically for you. So when your parents came together and made Charissa, am I saying your name correctly?
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
And knowing what you're doing today. So, regardless, yes, you're going to talk about purpose because it's instilled in you, it's a part of your DNA. And I think that most people just don't understand when you sit down with God and just try to understand that it's already in you and allow Him to just take control. And you would actually be amazed by the things that you do if you just get out of the way. Right?
Indeed.
I have a question that I've always wanted to ask, and because I know that your Dr. Monroe actually spoke a lot about purpose and leadership, and all of the things. What was he like as a dad? Like, what was he like outside of the global leadership piece? How was he as a father?
Let me start by saying he was the best father, the best father a girl could ask for. The best. I have the best father in the world. Let me say that right now. Um, and so he was a typical great father. And I say typical because there are many other daughters and women who have had the same experience of having a great dad at home who was someone that when they were younger threw them around and played outside with them. And yes, my dad was busy. I saw it as a child. Yes, he traveled a lot. I saw it. But for me, he was still always there. He always made sure that we felt his presence, that we felt his love. For my dad, his family was his first ministry. And he always said that, but we felt that.
Mhm.
And so the respect that I have for my dad in my older years is because he also was the exact same person that he talks about and that he encourages on the stage is the exact same person that he is at home.
Oh,
There are a lot of pastors, there are a lot of people who can stand on the stage and they can, tell others what they should be doing and the kind of life they should be living. And, they could be given all these charges. And then when they are behind closed doors, they are a different person. My dad wasn't that person. He was just as laid back and just as funny. up, upheld the same principles he was teaching about in leadership, marriage, relationship, purpose, potential, and then taught us the same thing at home. And I was also grateful. It was good to have a father. You know, people always ask me the opposite of the question you asked me. What is it like living with Dr. Myles Munroe? And I have to then say, I don't know what it's like living with Dr. Myles Munroe because you live with Dr. Myles, or you see Dr. Myles Munroe. You experience him as Dr. Myles Munroe. I experience him as daddy.
Yes.
And that is too in the sense of him being a pastor and a government consultant. At home, he is daddy. He puts down the pastor hat, he puts down the government consultant hat, he puts down the motivational speaker hat, and he becomes dad. I mean, 100% daddy. I see 100% daddy, and I see 100% husband. And
Yes.
that is a beautiful feeling for me to have with him not being here. I don't have the story of man. If anything, I miss my dad because I miss all of that. I don't miss him because I've missed out. And there's a
Mm.
very, very big difference. And
Yeah.
so as you know, he's not here, but as a daughter, I miss him, but I'm so proud of what he has done, what he has accomplished, the principles he stood for, the standard he upheld, the character that he maintained. I'm happy for that because every day someone says to me, Charissa, either your dad has been with me for years, or I just met him and came into the light of his teaching, and it has changed my life. And I just sit as a proud daughter, saying, I am very pleased with the father God has
Oh,
given me.
I love it. So let's stay there for a second because you said something. So growing up in the Miles the Monroe home, right? Shaping your own identity and the calling. Did you feel any pressure to living up to the legacy? Considering it.
Um, so I felt pressure living up to my parents' expectation
Mm,
while they were here, their
okay.
expectation. Rightfully so. And then in their passing, initially, not now, but initially, there was some pressure to live now up to the name or to live up to what it is that they left.
Mm,
And I'm sure people were looking, and to this day, people are still looking and trying to figure out, are they going to succeed or are they going to fail? What are they going to do with this grand legacy and this great mantle that Dr. Miles Monroe has left? I'm sure they are looking. I've removed the pressure,
mm.
regardless of what they may be putting on. I've chosen not to pick it up, or I've chosen not to keep it, because I also know that I am to surpass my father.
Mm.
So they always say, "Oh, you have big shoes to fill." No, I'm not going to fill my father's shoes. My father's shoes are actually going to be too small for me. And so that is the legacy that I'm building, so that my children can have their grandfather's shoes and grandmother's shoes to look at. They could have mine to also look at as a guide, and then their shoes will be even bigger than mine.
Yes, I love that. I love that. One of the quotes that is well known, and I think you use it a lot. I think I've actually shared it in my book. And your father actually says the greatest tragedy in life is death, but life without purpose, right? And how to have you personally um what is wrestled with the truth of your own journey, like knowing that, were you actually preparing for this particular journey for yourself? Did you actually plan to go through this, to keep on with the purpose and leadership space? Like, how has that been for you?
Uh, and the correct quote is, the greatest tragedy in life is not death,
It's not death, I'm
but
sorry. Yes.
life without purpose. And no, of course not. I had no plans. I had no idea that I was going to be living the life I was living, because the life that I had planned, the life that we had planned as a four unit family, was supposed to be lived with my parents. The
Mm.
vision we were creating was together, four of us. So now when you have just two of us, my brother and I wasn't prepared for that. So it's almost like I accepted a job, if you will, not without training,
Mm.
but definitely not voluntarily either.
Mm.
So that was the struggle of thinking initially that I'm not ready. And I wasn't ready. I don't think I still am. I'm still think I'm not ready. But what I recognized very early on, LaTasha, is that I was prepared. And immediately I recognized why now my dad was doing all the things he did from we were a kid.
Wow.
The throwing us on stage when we were 5 and when we were 9 and when we were 10 so that we can speak to thousands of people before he spoke. I didn't want to do that. But of course, we couldn't shame him, so we did what we had to do. Come to find out, all this time, he, God, was training me, was preparing me for such a time as this in my life where dad wouldn't be here, but there would still be a lot that God would have for me to do. Because if things had gone my way, I would have been on that plane with my parents that went down November 9th, 2014. I would have been on that plane. Therefore, I would not have been here. And things changed at the very last minute. And here I am now having to say, well, I wasn't supposed to be here without them. I wish I was on the plane. I don't want to be here. This was not supposed to be the life that I was like. That was me for the first few days. And but I also recognized that there was a mantle, there was a legacy, there was a baton that was being passed, and you only had a short window, Charissa. Are you going to accept the baton? Are you going to let somebody else take it, or are you going to drop it?
Mm.
And very early on, I had to make that decision. And of course, in my eyes, I didn't have an option because as a Munroe, you don't let things. I mean, when you've learned about legacy, when you've learned about succession, when you've learned about leadership, when you've learned about purpose, it's like an automatic response. It was an automatic response for me to just say, "Here, I'll take it," even
Right.
if I didn't want to. It was automatic, like it was an autopilot response. Um, and then, of course, once I recognized I had it and I was now walking with it, then to run, then I now had to learn um, to do this prepared and not ready. I had to learn to do it without them here, but I also had to learn to use the confidence, the value, the worth, the foundation that they had laid and given to me, all of it. I had to learn that I had what was needed and I had at least for me to take off. And then I had to trust. And then I had to now no longer trust my parents. I had to now trust in God that He would then take me further. All He needed me was to take off, was to start.
And that was a question I was going to ask you next. Is like, how did the grief reshape your faith rather than weaken it? So just to hear you say that you actually embraced it, you allowed it to propel you, because it was literally just God sent. Because you would have been on that plane and you weren't. So God does not make mistakes, and
Mhm.
to know that you allowed yourself to lean in on what was already created for you is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Huge,
Absolutely.
huge,
He
huge,
doesn't
huge.
make any mistakes, is correct. And I was
Yes.
angry. Let it be known. I was angry for a long time. And
Hmm.
but I didn't know who I was angry at. But I also knew that deep down I wasn't necessarily angry at my parents. And then I recognized that, oh, you are all of angry at God. So I was angry at God for a while. But at the same time, it was a struggle for me because I was angry at God, but I never stopped believing in him. I never stopped praying to him. I never stopped talking with him, but I was angry at him. Like that's how I am with my husband, right? I'm angry at him, but he's there, so I got to talk to him. I'm angry at him, but he's there, so we have to communicate. And then eventually you that anger dissipates because that person is there, they're showing you love, they are in the thicket with you, they don't leave you or forsake you. And so I recognize that you know what? Everything has a reason, everything is done has a purpose. We don't always know what God is doing. If he was to reveal him, if he had revealed to me that this was going to be my life and I would have to go through that, I would have sabotaged a long time ago. So he won't
Hmm.
always reveal himself. But I have to put more trust and more faith in him than I do what I see and what I feel.
Yes, love that. I love that. So, what does legacy mean to you today, and how can someone that's building legacy, even if they're feeling like they're starting from nothing? Because even though sometimes we're giving, it's inherited in such a way, right? Or you hear this all the time, oh, I'm building a legacy, I'm building a legacy, and they're doing all these things. So, what does that mean to you today? What would you actually Yeah, what would you say to that?
This is a loaded question because there is a pre-legacy understanding for me, and then there's a post-legacy understanding. And the pre-legacy understanding is, trying to understand legacy through my dad's eyes and understand his passion for it, his passion for even talking about it, for making sure that people understand it as it relates to purpose and leadership. There's that understanding of it. There's making sure that you don't just build a whole lot of money and buildings, but you also build people. But that's pre-legacy that I'm talking. And I'm talking pre to me having now my own children.
Mm.
Then now there's an understanding of post having children. Now I see why my father had this level of fire and passion under the work that he was doing, because now I recognize that he was building a legacy not only for himself, but for for the next generation in me, and then the next generation in my grandchildren and after them. And so now my legacy is my children and the children that they're going to have and their children's children. And so now my fire is even greater because now I know that before I die, I have to leave something with my children to carry. I have to leave something for them to pick up, because what I don't want is there to not be a baton that I pass. Because
Mm.
then all the work that I quote unquote would have done or been doing would be for naught. And so it wouldn't even be a matter of will there be someone to pass it on to. I need to
Mhm.
make sure that there's something for me to pass on. And so everything I do right now, everything I build, every relationship I encounter, every relationship I'm maintaining, every resource I accumulate, every decision I make is
Mhm.
no longer for me. It is for the people that I serve, and it is for the two children who are watching mommy, who are very soon going to be living and building their own legacy. And I'm going to teach them, but I need them to have the same experience that I have with my parents. I need them to see it. I need them to see mommy and daddy working and building, but still putting family first. I need them to see that. And so that's where legacy sits for me now. And it is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Is it always easy? No. Is it always picnic and sunshine and roses? Absolutely not. But in the moments when it's not, that's where growth happens for me.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we've actually I actually have to hear you say that because I didn't. It's like night and day. But I know people want to know what that feels like, and so like even for myself, being a mother of two boys, I also want to make sure that something because in God says, you know, we leave an inheritance for our children, and even though it wasn't given to me, I left. My mom actually passed away at the early age of 29, but I think the thing that she gave me was the most important thing, what was God. And so for me, that was huge because she already knew what I needed and she gave that to me. And I accept that even as an inheritance, right? And we, as mothers, we wear so many hats and do all of the things. And I think what you're doing right now and the people you serve, which we're going to get into in just a minute, um, is a beautiful thing because you can see it shaping and molding just the way God intended it to be. But you said that um it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And but you take on the challenge every single day. You we've had the opportunity to, we've talked about the incredible legacy of your father and the global impact of his voice and the things that he's done, but the legacy is not always something that we inherited. So something is something that we actually steward and we expand. You are not just carrying your name, you're carrying basically a mantle on your shoulders. You're carrying your own assignment, you're carrying your own authority. So I totally understand, but I wanted to get into Purpose Finder podcast and also your brand, Charisa's Munroe LLC. So let's dig into that because I do know your voice for is actually talking to and meeting this particular generation in 2026. So let's talk about it. your podcast, Purpose Founder podcast, is centered around helping people discover why they are here. What do you believe is the biggest barrier preventing people from truly living out their purpose today?
And so, even to further talk about the podcast and really what it's for, I want so people the the issue that people are having is they get stuck in those moments of adversity and challenge, trauma, and needing to heal. They get stuck in that. Something they get stuck in the hurdle, they get stuck in the hump, they get stuck in the valley. And so if you look at my podcast with the guests that I have, I strategically pick and choose the guests that I have there. They are either well known or they're doing great and amazing things in the world. And people look at them and think, oh wow, like they're just a something to look at. Or they dream, man, I only wish I can do that. I wish that was me, or I wish people knew me, or I wish I was making this amount of money, or I wish I could be them. But what they don't recognize is those people might be standing on the mountaintop, but they have also been in the valley just where you're looking from. And I use the podcast to bring those people on so that those listening can hear people who hear people share their valley moments, share their darkest moments, share their challenges, so that they can say, "Wow, I would have never imagined that he or she went through that, considering where they are." If they can do it, if they can come out and still triumph, if they can come out and still be great, then maybe so can I. I don't have to live in depression. I don't have to figure out how to cope with depression. I can deal with it. I can get some help and heal, and I can surpass it. I don't have to stay in the guilt of the trauma that happened to me when I was 20, when I was 15 or 10 or 5, and now I'm 60. And they
Mm,
feel like, okay, life is no longer here. Nobody is going to want me. I'm damaged goods. Well, they also get to see that, wow, he or she was also raped, or he or she was also sexually abused, or he or she also suffered depression, he or she also lost a limb, but they're doing great things because they chose not to get stuck in
yeah.
the valley. And so I have conversations with people just like me who had a dark season, and there was a decision that they had to make. There was someone that helped them. There was a moment that they were there, but then they decided that, or someone, or they answered a call, or they made themselves walk through the door, or they just said, you know what, this can't be my life. There has to be more. And then they decided to kind of get up and take the first step. Or they now realize that there's someone else who all you have to do is trust in God,
Mm,
and they get to say, wow. So the podcast also gets to provide practical steps from people who are living the journey to those who are listening to help them get unstuck, to help them bring some light into their darkness, bring some end of the tunnel moments to their challenges and adversity, and say, look, you don't have to stay where you are because the mountaintop is still waiting for you. You do have to climb, but it's very much still waiting for you.
yeah, I like that. So I know in your organization, as far as your brand, Charisa Munroe LLC, the training and development brand, um, you are uniquely helping individuals move from inspiration to implementation. As a coach and as someone that as an actual in also in that space, I know I've run into some barriers sometimes, but um, it's a two-part question. The first one would be um, how do you help them in that particular space, like the inspiration to implementation when it comes to purpose? But also, we know that sometimes people have a hard time accepting the advice or the guidance or the coaching. How do you overcome that as well?
Now, as far as people accepting advice, I mean, you can only give, like I can only put food on the table, but I can't make you eat. But I will always be a servant of the table that I'm at. I will always serve. So I will always serve from the best of my abilities and my capabilities, but I cannot make anyone eat. You have to make that decision. And so let's start there as far as from a coaching perspective, from even just planting a seed perspective. I'm going to plant the seed. I'm going to be that pebble. You know, I'm going to plant that rock in your shoe that when you are done with me, there's going to be this pebble that is going to make you acknowledge it because you're aware that it's there. But by the time I'm done and you're done and you leave my presence, my work, my experience, you are going to have this pebble in your shoe that's going to require you to acknowledge. And you get to decide, I'm going to take this pebble out, throw it away, and then do something about it. Or I'm going to keep walking with this pebble that's going to be quite annoying. And eventually you're still going to have to acknowledge it. Um, I hope that answers the question, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes. So, and so my next one, what distinguishes your approach to purpose, to purpose development from what people traditionally learned from, leaders like your father and other voices, and also like what does your voice bring to a fresh perspective? So when you're on stage, and I know you do your own retreats and things like that. So what does your voice bring to a fresh perspective, especially in this generation?
I mean, there's so many coaches around, there's so many people hosting events, but there's very few that have, like, someone may have one of the things that I have, but they may not have the other. And I can't necessarily compare myself to anybody. I can't do that. I just don't have the time to kind of figure out, like, where it is that, they have that I don't. But I know that apart from the research that I've done, even before I do the work now, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I did that for many years. And then all I did was change platforms. So I did that in the medical field. And then I said, I don't want to do, well, I had the opportunity to expand who I was becoming. I was able to leave my 9 to 5 and now build my personal brand. So no, I won't call myself a social worker now in this space, but I bring that experience. I bring that history. I bring that knowledge and expertise to the table in addition to the research I've done. And then also I have lived. One thing I will never do, LaTasha, as a leader is ask people to go somewhere I've never been or to do something that I have never done.
Mm,
As a leader, I can't, as a leader with integrity, I cannot do that. So
yeah.
the majority, if not 100% of my work is me taking people through something I've already gone through and allowing them to experience where I am at or where I've been before.
Yeah.
And so I understand the struggle. I understand the journey. So I get to talk. That is what gives me the authority to talk the way I do. I'm not going to talk about nothing that I don't know nothing about. And the reason why I don't know nothing about it is because I haven't experienced myself. Even in the research comes after I have gone through and I'm like, I want to know more.
Mm,
It wasn't something I read and then I say, oh, then I'll go through that. No, it was the other way around.
yeah.
And so you have the therapeutic side to my expertise, you have the personal experiential side, and then you have the due diligence side. Because when I do serve people, I want to make sure that I am being um, completely open and informed when I talk to them. Because they're going to start to make decisions. They're going to start to make waves. You're gonna experience Charissa and your world is gonna be rocked. That's not me being boastful. That is me repeating the words of someone who just did my summit a couple of days ago. Her exact words in written form on Facebook is, I just attended a summit and it rocked my world.
Mm,
So I know the authority and the influence and the impact that I bring to a room, to a table, to a conference, to somebody's life.
I love it. I love it. How was the event? I saw that you actually had a summit literally
Great.
days ago.
It was great. If I only had 5 people in the room, it was great.
Yeah.
Of course, I had more than that, but it was because I am no longer, and this is where I'm at now, and I can say this with authority, I'm no longer trying to reach everybody.
Mm,
I'm trying to reach who God has for me to serve. And so I'm in the process of streamlining my work. I'm in the process of streamlining my message. I'm in the process of streamlining who it is that I'm targeting.
mm-hmm.
And so when I have those people in the room, they feel it, I feel it. And for the first time, I had a streamlined group of people in a room talking about alignment. Let me tell you something. I was having a presentation that I was giving to them, but I
Mm-hmm.
was also I was also preaching, if you want to use that word, to myself. It was an amazing
Mm-hmm.
experience, but it was also amazing to see their faces, to hear their valuable moments, to hear their aha moments, because I've been obedient
Yeah.
and I've been a good steward of the gifts and the talents and the resources that God has given me.
Do you feel like it's the same thing as like I heard it, and this is what I've said, because sometimes we actually coach and teach the thing that we actually need, because in even the things that we've experienced, because it's people resonate with it because you've experienced it. So it's kind of like once you actually get on a stage or you get in a room, it just hits differently. Do you feel the same?
Well, part of it too is because I will never, ever come across as though I've arrived.
Mm.
So I say it every retreat. I say it in events if I can. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting right there with you. But I also just said it to you. I will never take a leader or ever ask a leader to go where I've never been or ask them to do what I've never done. And
Yeah.
so just how I'm encouraging them to start their transformational journey or to pick up their bags and let's walk, I'm also still in my transformational journey. I
Mhm.
stay in the work. So though I may host retreats, though I may host events, you best believe that I'm not hosting, I'm also in a retreat or in an event where I'm the on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And so, me sometimes preaching to myself is because I am also very open to the download from God. And so, many times I may have a presentation, I may think I'm prepared to know exactly what I'm going to say, and on the spot, LaTasha, God downloads,
Mm.
gives me a revelation on the spot. And He thinks He's giving it for me to give to them, having no, well, I'm sure He's well aware that He's also giving it for me.
Hmm.
And so I would share those moments. I'm like, man, guys, I'm preaching to me. If y'all don't want to say hello, amen, hello, hey, I will take it because, I'm also there.
Yeah.
So I love when I get to share moments with my clients, customers, those who are in the audience, because we're on this journey together called life.
Yeah. Where do you get your confidence from? Have you always felt confident in actually speaking and getting up in front of people? I mean, what do you pull from when, or if you have not always been confident?
That comes with, confidence, however, comes with practice, but it also comes with doing. So a lot of people feel that you find confidence first and then you get up and start doing it. I become more confident the more I do, the more I become. So the more I do, for instance, podcast interviews, or the more I speak, or the more I accept invitations to be able to show my gift, I become more confident in my gift. If I was waiting on confidence, it'll never come. So I'll never say yes. I will never show up. And if I show up, I will always show up very timid, very unprepared.
Hmm.
But the more I do it, the more confident I become.
Yeah.
Um, and anytime I feel myself having lack of confidence, that's when I know that, okay, Charissa, you just need to do this thing more. And you just need to do it. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying you need to do it and be perfect. You just need to do it. I want you to encourage yourself to do it and mess up. Fail. Like I've done a few things and flopped on my face, but it was the best thing that can happen to my confidence
Yeah.
because now I get to act, I get to assess, and I get to adjust. And then guess what I get to do? I get to act again.
Yeah.
And then I get to assess, and then I get to make the adjustments. And then guess what I get to do? I get to act again.
Yes.
And I might not get it right until the 14th iteration. But what I'm not going to do is not start, and what I'm not going to do is stop.
I like it. Well, you know what he say, be doers. Don't just say when he wants us to
Exactly.
be doers, right? So because it's like you don't want to actually lose yourself or forget the thing that he actually, shows you. So I totally agree with that. You and I actually share and you can correct me from, but I know based off the research that I did, the mentor, Lisa Nichols. You actually, she one of your mentors. I know my first encounter with her back in 2017. What was your encounter like with her, if you don't mind sharing that?
I sought out Lisa
Mm,
when I got to a place in my life. So from 2014 to about 2020, the beginning of 2021, I had everything of my dad to get me up to that point. Whether, well, for all my life, I had him. And then when he was no longer here, then I had all of his teachings. I had what I remember of him. I had all the conversations that we would have had that took me up to that point. And then I got to that point and realized I wanted to go higher. But my dad is no longer here to be my confidant. He's no longer here to be my coach or my mentor. And I also, for 2014 to 2020, there wasn't anyone that I could even find that would match who he
mm,
was to me. And so I was in a whirl for a while with him still as my mentor, but his presence wasn't here anymore. At that point, I realized I wanted more. I wanted to do more. And I wanted more practical information. I wanted to grow my business. I wanted to grow my revenue. I wanted to become better at speaking. And up to that point, I was still running a business. I was still speaking, but I knew that there was another level.
mm.
And so now I had to go and find a mentor. I had to go and find a coach in this sense. Long story short, I sought out Lisa. So I did my research, put it that way. And I was looking for someone who was already 15, 20, 30, 40 years ahead of me, but they were where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people came up. Lisa was one. There were a few other men and women. And the more I did research, the more I watched, the more I learned. And I said, I want to get with her. And I searched on how to find her. Long story short, again, I figured it out. I found her. And we started, I became one of her one on one coaching clients and told her what I wanted. So we had a plan. I want to increase my revenue. I want to build my business, build my clientele. It was all business related, all of it. That's all I wanted from Lisa Nichols. Long story short, Lisa says to me, "This is good. You want your business to grow? We can do that. I have done that. I can help you with. But there are some things we need to deal with first."
Yes.
I, up to that point, I did not know that from 2014, when my parents passed, to 2021, a total of about 6.5 to 7 years, I did not know that I I was choosing to not deal with grief.
Mm,
And so the reason why I'd gotten to a point and I had become stuck was because there were chapters that needed to be closed that I hadn't closed, but I also didn't allow myself to heal and go through the grieving process and so forth and so on. And so Lisa is the one that shed light on that and told me before we could work on any business, anything, we have to work on your personal development. We have to get Charissa free. We have to get Charissa released. We have to get Charissa revived. We have to bring Charissa alive again.
yeah.
And that was the beginning of my personal transformation journey. And let me tell you something, though it was hard, I've never cried as much as I did after you meet Lisa. She know how to do a room, but it changed the entire trajectory of my life to date. To
Yeah.
date. So,
It's funny that you say it because even in coaching, and I know you know this, we always start ourselves first. You have to be able, and I've been, leadership for over 25, they're almost 30 years now, and I've always said I can't lead anyone until I lead myself. And it starts with us. We have to master our own feelings. We have to master our own walk before we can actually, help other people. And really quickly before we close, I encountered her. It was like what you said. I was going through the situation at that time, and I was just searching for something, and I just knew that I was just in this space. And so I decided to go to one of her conferences in Atlanta, and it was in 2017. And when I walked in, I was, VIP. I walked in the room and I said, "This is it." And she invited, after that, she invited us to the her penthouse suite, and so I had a little moment with her. And same thing with you, is like the waterworks just come and you're just talking, and I just knew that she was something that I needed in my life, and she had the thing. And it was definitely something that gave me the confirmation that I was to do this. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a change, but I had to make sure that I did the work first. Right. And to hear that you also had that same encounter with her, because I mean, Lisa's huge. Just like, again, she's doing the thing that many of us inspired to do, even on a larger scale or not. It's like she's lived it. You know her story, and it allows that vulnerability for me to say, you know what, it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be authentic in your mess, and allow that to be your message. It's okay to still tell your story, because somebody out there that is coming from that is going to need what you did to survive all of those things. You know what I mean? So good. I love that. I love to hear that. So if there's some woman or someone that is listening to this podcast right now, and they are feeling a little discouraged, they are feeling a little down, they're feeling a little stuck, confused at all of the things, what is the one thing that you would actually say to them, to say what, or to get through it?
One of the things that I share a lot on, especially now, is the importance of alignment.
Mm.
And when we look at our entire lives as a whole, one of the things that is plaguing our leaders now, or people in general, is we are completely misaligned. And so my work is to encourage people to make sure that who you are, what you are called to do, and what you are carrying are in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
When your identity and your assignment agree, and when your assignment, identity, and your responsibility agree, that's when momentum happens. That's when alignment happens. And when we are aligned, we are very clear then in what we can do, what we are supposed to do, the decisions that we make, the relationships that we make, the opportunities that are for us. But if we'll never get clarity and certainty if we can't find alignment. And then once we are clear, that's when we start to feel now completely full of life. I'm talking full of life from a purpose perspective. We feel alive. We now understand that we are here to take over the world. So we start comparing and we start competing. And then now we become intimate and have this order that this is who I am to become. So now we move from doing to being who it is that God wants us to be. But before we can get there, I encourage people to make sure that you take an assessment of your life and figure out where are you aligned? Where are you misaligned? Are you misaligned in your identity? Are you misaligned in your assignment? Are you misaligned in your responsibility? And where you see there is disagreement, try and
Mm-hmm.
bring agreement.
I love that. Get in alignment. I love it. So we actually hear that a lot. Be, do, have. So you want to make sure that you are aligned with what God has called you, and to get out of your own way and stop trying to do it your way and trying to figure it all out. Because God wants us to surrender, right? He wants to make sure that you're listening, and He is the lamp at your feet, to make sure that He is getting all the grace and the glory to everything that we're doing, and you then will discover your purpose. My guest today, I hope you have learned as much as I have learned, and gathered so many gems that I have. And I want to say thank you again. And this has been another great episode of Elevate to Clarity. Remember, all things are possible, but clarity makes them elevate. And I will see you at the top. Take care.